Welcome everybody. Running a little late here. Looks like we have John Fuller. He's connected, and John Cullen will be joining us here shortly. So if anyone else is out there and wants to tag along and jump in, you're more than welcome to hop on. Just waiting for John to pop onto TeamSpeak real quick.
User entered your channel.
Hello, user.
There we are.
So how are you doing tonight, John?
Not doing too bad.
Cool.
Just doing some prep for my game tomorrow.
Oh, okay. That game is your in-person game?
Yeah, the Mines of whatever it is, Phandelver. Yeah, one of our players just emailed this afternoon and said that he's not going to be able to make it. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a one-shot. So I'm going to take my first attempt at creating something.
Gotcha. Also trying to help Joseph get installed real quick.
Cool.
So you said you're going to be doing a one shot then?
Yeah, I have an idea for something that I'm trying to write up. Just got my notes down on the basic NPCs, and now I need to maybe put some maps and some other stuff together.
Gotcha. So, I guess we'll start with you, John, while we're waiting for Joseph to pop in. Is there anything specific that you'd like me to go over or to answer questions of?
Well, the only thing I've run into so far is my spells and how you can set them up. I thought, well, I know there's a way in there that I can indicate how many spells I can know at this level, I think, or at least how many I can cast, and I'm not sure how you get that set up on the screen.
Okay. We can work on that. Okay, so while we're waiting on Joseph, we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at that. So your main concern is how to differentiate between the spells that you know and the ones that you've cast? Is that correct?
Well, I'm not sure what all it tracks. Like, I see you just made a change on my sheet there. Spell slots. Like, at second level, I believe I can know 5 spells and I can cast 3. Like, at the top it says my spell slots are 1. And I'm not sure how that got there.
Okay. So if you look on your character sheet, under the actions in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a mode button that says Standard. Click on that, and let's change that to preparation.
Okay.
And then up at the top there, you can put in the amount of spell slots and stuff you have.
There we go. Now, can you have more spells listed than what you can actually cast? I guess it says I can. It says I can know. I'm trying to remember now. But anyways, I can know a certain number, but I can only prepare like 5. So can I have the total? Can I have more than 5 in there and just indicate which ones I have prepared?
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
So, for instance, here in the preparation ones, to show which ones you have prepared,
User entered your channel.
just click on the little radial button there next to the spell to indicate that you're preparing that spell.
Oh, okay. Yep, that makes sense. I think that kind of pretty much answers the whole thing. I didn't realize that mode button, or that it was actually a button. So that answers a lot, really.
Alright, cool. Welcome. Is that Joseph? Hello, Joseph? Or maybe it's someone else. Fiddle Piper? Okay, so we briefly showed you the knowledge and the preparation. Oh, did I hear someone?
So I have to hold down the talk button?
Yep, that you do.
Okay. No.
Welcome. Is that Joseph?
Yes, it is. You can call me Chepe.
Call you Checker?
Chepe? That's the
Oh,
name I
Chepe.
go by
Oh, okay.
on the YouTube channel.
Welcome,
It's,
Chepe.
Fontrod, Chepe with it.
Alright. So, Chepe, are you brand new to Fantasy Grounds? Or have you used it before?
I've used it once before with Caldwell. I'm sure you remember, Sam or Brack. But we didn't end up playing a game, so there's still a lot I don't know. I just kind of messed around with it a little.
Ah, okay. Gotcha. Alright, so on this tour here, I'm kind of just tailoring it around everyone that's here. Like the last time I ran it on Tuesday, it was a lot of DMs that were wanting DM info. So I'm just want to find out from you what you're wanting to get out of the tour tonight, and we'll customize and we'll take you through it.
All right, thank you. That sounds awesome. I'm probably going to be a player on Fantasy Grounds. I don't think I would actually. Normally, I run Google Hangouts for games, but I intend to play in a lot of Fantasy Grounds games. So, just the basics, I suppose, for loading sheets and just where everything is.
Okay, great. All right. And I know John here. John's the other guy that's here. He joined me for a session, I think it was last week, so he's pretty new as well. So I guess I'll just take you through and try and show you as many aspects for Fantasy Grounds as a player. If I go over something that you already know and want me to move ahead, just go ahead and just say move on ahead.
All right. There is one thing I wanted to ask. How easy is it to import homebrew content as a GM?
How to import your own homebrew content?
Yes. Like, there's a few custom, and so, like, as a player, and I was wondering, like, how easy it would be to do that, like, in case they are new to Fantasy Grounds as a GM, and I could tell them how to do it to make it easier for them.
Well, it can be easy, depending on the person you're talking to. The easiest way to import your own homebrew data into Fantasy Grounds is if you know a little bit about XML or even HTML. It'll help when you have to mark up what you're wanting and then run it through the parse to make it into a module. That's the easiest way to do it. So for someone like me, it's easy, but there's other people that have a hard time even getting the PAR 5e program for Fantasy Grounds to do exactly what they want it to do.
I gotcha.
So I guess if you run into that and you want to put in some content and you're running with like Sam, and maybe he doesn't know a whole lot about that aspect, you can let me know and I could probably put some time aside. If you send me like a PDF or a text, and I can mark it up, run it through the parse, and then I can email him the module to take care of it if he doesn't know how to do it.
Thank you. That would be awesome. I have the races on my blog, so it's as simple as just either exporting it to a PDF or just sending you the link.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you can, just send me a message with your blog. I'm not sure if I even knew about your blog. Is that Fontrodden blog or something like that?
Okay, the channel's fun, but the blog is called, the URL is thepurginglenses.wordpress.com, and it's Afon's Reprieve is one, but the blog I'm talking about, I have multiple. It's for a custom setting. It's called Aquika, and it's aquika.wordpress.com. I can just send you the link for the places, I suppose.
Yeah, just send me the link, and if I get some time this weekend, I'll blow through it and mod it up for you. Then you can give it to whoever you want to run, whoever is GMing Fantasy Grounds for you, and then you'll have it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Alright, so I guess let's start off with some of the basics. First off, are you guys both confident on how to create your own character in Fantasy Grounds?
Not without the drag and drop. Sam had he bought the books and stuff on Fantasy Grounds itself, so it was pretty simple to do that for me.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the drag and drop, the drag and drop is fairly straightforward and stuff. I did go in one time and tried to put in, like build a spell in. I don't have the full manual, just the basic one. So I tried to put a spell in that's not in the basic player's handbook, and I couldn't figure out what I was doing in there.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's something we necessarily need, but I couldn't figure it out.
Oh, okay. That's it's not too difficult to do, John. I can run you through that as well. All right, so let's look at how to make a custom spell. We'll put that on our list for today. is there anything else within character creation you guys want to do? It sounds like, Chepa, you want to learn how to put stuff in manually. Is that correct?
If I need to learn that. Yeah, that might be helpful.
Okay.
Or just going over it in general.
All right. All right, so we'll start with that, and we'll work through the character sheet, and we'll get to the spells towards the end. So if you guys want, you're more than welcome to start a new character. If you're not sure how to do that, over on the right-hand side, there's a PC button. Just click on that. Then I believe on the player side you should see like a green plus button. Just click on that to open up a brand new character sheet. Alright, so by doing that you open up a brand new character sheet. From here, obviously the name is self-explanatory. You can put whatever you want in there. When it comes to the class, on that line, you can type in whatever class you want. It doesn't have to be anything hardwired in there. Like say you have your own homebrew class. You could put in there that, I don't know, maybe you have your own version of the Warlord from 4th edition. You could just type it in under the class. And then there's a little magnifying glass on the very right hand side of that line that will open up some more detail for the class and levels. So whenever you type on that line and put in, let's say, Warlord, it should show up towards the bottom of the class and level window screen that you have open. Otherwise, you could hit the little edit list button that's on the far right hand side next to used, and that will open up to where you can hit the green plus to put in another class. This is how you can also multi-class as well. And then for the level box, you put in whatever level you are. For the hit die, you could put in whatever hit dice you're using. And in order to do so, you would just drag one of the dice on the bottom of your Fantasy Grounds screen and drop it into that box. And that will dictate what hit dice it uses.
Okay.
I believe it will accept any of those dice, the standard dice in there.
I just need to grab my PHP real quick.
Okay.
I have noticed, unless I'm not paying attention, that when you build a character off of the materials provided, so I'm just doing drag and drop, that it doesn't seem to calculate the AC correctly.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people reporting that. For some reason, the makers of Fantasy Grounds decided that they would start everything off with a base of 10, since AC actually is supposed to start at a base 10 within 5th edition anyways. So let's say you're getting Chainmail. How they have it is it's automatically going to be 10, because 10 is the lowest armor class you can get for 5th edition, accordingly, from what I understand. So if you have Chainmail, it's supposed to be a 16, so that's why it'll start at 6, or it'll start at 10, and you just put in the 6 to make it a 16. That was Smiteworks' that was their design decision on creating it.
Yeah, it just, I mean, it's not a big deal. I just noticed that, I build my character on paper first, and then when I go in there and I add the armor and I add a shield or something, I don't come up with the same AC, and that's what kind of put it in front of me. Not a big deal, but something to pay attention to.
Definitely. Yeah, the first couple times I ran it for the 5th edition rule set, I ran into that, and I kept going, what in the hell? Why is the armor class so high? And finally I tracked it down and figured it out. Alright, so we've got the class, level, the hit dice. The use button is where you can manually track any healing surges or hit die that is used for healing. You just type in the box if you used, I don't know, 3 or whatnot. The XP box, that is self-explanatory. That's where you track your XP as a player. Next level, it's not automatic, so you have to type that in for whatever level. But this is also a good point to show some people for 5th edition don't actually like the lower level XP ranges. So you can easily go in and you can modify your XP ranges in Fantasy Grounds, so you're not restricted to the ones in the Player's Handbook.
Oh, okay.
Alright, any more questions for that window?
Don't think so.
Alright. And just briefly to let you know, in the classes there, you can put multiple levels if you're multi-classing. And then it will automatically tally up the levels and put under the total level. Let's say you got 2 levels of Rogue and 1 level Warlock. It'll show your total level 3 character if you do that.
Well, interesting. I haven't messed with multi-class yet, but I'll have to get in here and play with that.
Gotcha. Now, something to keep in mind, which didn't dawn on me until someone pointed it out a little while ago. I guess I skipped over it. There are some actual minimum requirements on stats in order to multi-class in 5th edition, if you play it by the rules that are set in there. Okay, so we went over class and level, and going back to the main character sheet, there's a box for proficiency next to the class and level. That's where you can dictate what your proficiency bonus is. But let's say you would like to manually change that, or maybe as a DM, if you decide to DM later, you decide to say, well, at level 1 I want everyone to be at, I don't know, +3 instead of the +2. I believe all you got to do is hit the control button and then mouse up. Okay, maybe not. Let me check one. No, I guess that is hard-coded. Okay, they changed that. You used to be able to go and manually change that. Okay, sorry about that. Alright, moving on, we have the background, and in that line you can type whatever you want. So if you have some custom backgrounds, you can manually type that in there. And like for me, I went through InWorld and a bunch of other sites, and I entered in a bunch of the third-party backgrounds and races and stuff. So you can put custom backgrounds, classes, paths, races inside Fantasy Grounds.
Do those show up in your library or something?
Yeah, I have most of those actually listed under my PHB. I went ahead and just shoved a bunch of that in the Player's Handbook, so I didn't have to have players looking all over the place trying to figure out what book they were in. So I put a bunch of them in my Player's Handbook.
Oh, I didn't realize you could modify the books that you had downloaded from them. That's cool.
I didn't download my books. I used the Par 5e program. I took my books, I scanned them in with my printer, I ran it through OCR for object character recognition, and then I copied and pasted them into individual text files. I went in, marked them up, and then they have a program you can run that will convert that text into a module. So the only thing I've actually bought outside of my regular license, I went ahead and spent some money with Zeus, who actually made the Par 5e program. So basically the books they're selling to everyone as basically you don't have to buy them. You could run the Par 5e program and run it for yourself for free, so it won't cost you anything. It was just a way of making it easier for players that didn't want to go through all that time and hassle of marking everything up and making their own modules.
What site does that come from?
The Par 5e program is in the Fantasy Grounds community, in their forums, under the 5e rule set, and it's a sticky right there in the beginning. Just look for the Par 5e program or something like to that effect, and in there Zeus has the link that takes you to his personal website where you got to register, and then you could download that file and use it to make your own modules.
Okay, yeah, it looks, well, here's, Project Par 5e.
Yeah, that's the one.
Cool, I'll have to look into that.
Yeah. Okay, so we went through merchant, or background, race, and if you have any specific questions over this stuff, just holler. Alright, and then under the abilities, pretty much in there you just type in what stat you're going to be. So as a DM you can dictate whatever method of ability stat generation you want, whether it's point by, 3d6 roll straight down the line, 46, whatever. So it facilitates that pretty easily.
Yeah, I found, in my vast experience of DMing one group, I found that when I was doing it with people that weren't there in person, that going with the standard numbers seemed to be better. It seemed to make people think it was more fair because everybody was dealing with the same thing. But when we were in person, it was actually a lot of fun to have everybody roll it themselves, because that went on for I don't know how long, because some people are rolling sixes, and it was a lot of fun when you're doing it in person.
Oh yeah, there's a whole varying camps on which one's the best. Sometimes I mix it up. I usually do 46 drop the lowest, as I tend to beef up my encounters pretty heavily. So.
Oh, okay.
That's what I normally do too.
Gotcha. Alright, so that's the abilities. Under the senses, this is where you can put, you could type whatever senses you have. I don't believe there's any keyword recognition in Fantasy Grounds for it, because they don't actually have dynamic lighting for Fantasy Grounds yet until they get it ported over to the Unity engine. But here you could dictate whether someone has, say, tremor sense or low light, ultravision, or whatever you want to put in there. So you could just manually type there. Let's see here. And then the box that says PERC, I believe that is your perception. Yeah, that's basically your passive perception. Yeah, okay. And yeah, that's hardwired with your wisdom and your proficiency bonus. Let me see if I could change it. Nope. Okay, so yeah, that's hardwired. Then of course you have the saves over on the right hand side, so you can put in whatever saves you want for the particular class that you're building. So once again, using that, you can customize whatever saving throw system you're using the stats, obviously. Next thing let's go over is the AC. On the AC, there is a magnifying glass just to the left of that, which will open up another window. This is the Combat Calc window. And in here at the top, it will track what your initiative is. So, first off, it uses your dexterity bonus, and then there's a box for miscellaneous. So you could put whatever miscellaneous bonus you get. Let's say you get the improved initiative bonus, then you could put in the +4 or whatever you're using. Or let's say maybe they have a sword of speed that gives them a +2 bonus to their initiative. You could just manually put that in there as well. Or be cruel and give them a cursed sword of slowness. Next up,
Right.
I'll go ahead.
No, I was just following along.
Okay. So the next area we have the speed, which you'd put in the base speed for whatever race or whatnot you have. So 30, 25, or let's say you make a custom race that moves 40. You can put that in the base. And then of course you have the armor in there. Let's say I think that's an armor. It's supposed to be an armor penalty, like if you're using heavy armor, where you need to reduce the speed if they don't meet the strength requirements. You could put in a -5 or something on there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then of course there's a miscellaneous box for whatever might come up where you need to further hinder that speed range.
It wouldn't let me just click.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Wouldn't let me just click on it to enter in. Is there a thing?
Are you in the Combat Calc window? Or are you doing it from the main page of your character sheet?
Okay. I was trying to do it from the main page. That was it. I didn't see the fact that you could do speed on the Combat Calc. I saw the Combat Calc, but I only saw initiative and armor. For some reason, I just completely skipped over speed.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing.
Gotcha. Now, if you did want to change it right from the main window, if you hold the control button down and use your mouse wheel, it'll let you change it. That and the initiative.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's an easy way to do it on the fly if like you're GMing, or yeah, even as a player to help out the GM. If you need to drop it by 5 real quick, you just control and just click and manually change that real quick. Alright, going back to the Combat Calc window, the next section we have is the armor section with dealing with the armor class. So, as John pointed out, everything within Fantasy Grounds assumes you start with a base armor class of 10. So let's say you bought Chainmail, which is supposed to give you an armor class of 16, what you'd have to do in that armor box is only type 6, because it's automatically going to add 10 to whatever you type in there. So if you type 16, it'll turn into 26. You'll get super high ACs if you do it wrong. And then with the shield box, basically it allows you to put in the AC bonus of your shield. So you can, so if you're looking real quick and let's say you had to drop the shield or whatnot, you could easily go in and just change that to 0 real quick. If you're doing combat on the fly. The next box over is the dexterity modifier box, and how that one works is you just click the box to change its field. So by default it starts at full, but you can change it to maximum 2, maximum 3, none, or back to full. And then there is a second box. This I mainly use for like the monks or the barbarians who get a second modifier for their armor class. Because like I think it's the barbarian, you add your wisdom and dexterity, I think, or maybe it's constitution. I'm getting mixed up. So you can click that box and you can change the stat that it increases by in the second box there. And then the last box, we have the miscellaneous box. So let's say you have chainmail +2. That's where I would recommend you put the +2 for the armor to show under miscellaneous, or let's say you get a ring, a protection, or something like that. Underneath there we have the proficiency star. If it's yellow, that means you're proficient in that armor. By clicking that, you can change it to the different levels of proficiency. So if it's gray, you're not proficient with the armor that you're wearing, so it'll automatically put in penalties. So I guess right now it's just proficient or not proficient. And then there is a box you can check if you're wearing heavy armor that imposes a stealth disadvantage. Any questions about that window?
No, there's a couple of good things in there though. I would have never thought about where to put the stealth disadvantage when somebody's wearing, heavy armor or something.
Gotcha. Alright, so back to the main page of the character sheet. Underneath that area with the AC, intelligence, or initiative and the speed, you've got special move and special defenses. Now this is where you can put in, let's say you're resistant to bludgeoning, you could put in that for defenses. Special move, I think that's where you put in things like teleport. You could also put Misty Step there, or stuff like that to facilitate special moves. And Fantasy Grounds, in certain aspects, it'll use keywords to recognize. So if you have resistance and you are attacked, let's say you have resistance to bludgeoning, and a big old hill giant comes and bashes you with a big old tree branch, it'll recognize that you have resistance to bludgeoning and will automatically reduce the damage accordingly.
But you need to put in those keywords.
Yeah, and if you ever need a comprehensive list of all the keywords Fantasy Grounds uses, they do have a document under their wiki link on their page, which is also handy for doing spells. like if it's a fire spell, or let me think of some other ones, like setting up attacks and damage in the NPCs. If you put it in a specific format, Fantasy Grounds will automatically recognize it, and it will put it, it'll set it up for you, so you don't have to put it in every time.
Yeah, I think I ran across that document at one point. I'll have to go back and see where it was.
Okay. If you need further direction on how to get to it, just let me know later, and I'll help you find it. Any other questions so far?
Don't think so.
All right. So underneath there we have where we can put our hit points, maximum hit points, temporary hit points. So let's say the Warlock, let's say you just manually rolled your hit points and you rolled a 3 because you're not doing the average, and then you add in your Constitution, would make you a 2. In the case of Exceeder here, you would just click on that box and type in 2. Well, you'd put that in the max though. Yeah, there you go. The section to the left of that, that's where you'd put any wounds that you have been inflicted during combat. And whenever damage is done to you through the combat tracker, it'll automatically apply to your character sheet. And then the button to the far right is where you can put in temporary hit points. There's various different buffs out there from spells or powers or whatnot that can give you those. That's where you can manually put those in. And Fantasy Grounds will automatically take from the temporary hit points when you're using the combat tracker before it applies to the wounds.
That's good.
Yeah. Alright, underneath there, let's go into the hit dice, HD for hit dice. So that's using the 5th edition. Right now it shows, since you're level 1, you have 1 hit dice for this character to use to heal up. If you click on the magnifying glass, that will open up your health calc for your hit dice, so you can modify that a little bit. So you could change the stat, your hit dice roll, from base, or let's say you want to also add in your strength, dexterity, or whatever. Whenever you roll that hit dice roll, you can change it there. Or if you want to add in a miscellaneous, maybe you have a Parapt of health, and perhaps it gives you a bonus to your hit dice roll whenever you're doing self-healing. You can make that modification through there. Alright. Any questions on that window?
What does base refer to? Is that like the base that the class is built on or something?
So by base, it's just, I believe it's the straight roll, but you can change that to different stats. So that's basically, that's a DM prerogative there, how to, if you want to change that.
I thought that was based on Constitution.
I don't know, let's check.
Like, looking at like Sorcerer, it says your hit points at level 1 are 6 plus your Constitution modifier, and then each level is a 1d6 plus your Constitution modifier. That's why, for some reason, I thought that should be Con in there.
Ah, then yes, so you got it. Actually, we could test that out. So let's test that, make sure it's working right. So let's bring up Ekman here. So we have, let's change it to base. And then go ahead and click on the black die there to roll your hit dice. And let's see if it adds it in there. So it gave you 4 plus 2. So yeah, so it's automatically figuring in your constitution. So I guess you could change that if it's using a different stat besides constitution. You can use that. And then if you have multiple stats that affect your hit dice, you can use the stat and the second box.
I'll have to go back through and look. I don't know that I've ever seen one that wasn't Constitution. But, you know, there might be somewhere since they allow you to change it.
Yeah, there might be. Good catch. Alright. Any other questions for that window?
Don't think so.
Alright, so the next area we have is the death saves area. So there's a little box with a little D20 emblem. If you're required to make a death save, all you got to do is click that box and it will roll your death save for you. And then of course if let me put this guy down. Let's see here, let me try and get it to track real quick. Probably because I'm not doing it through the combat tracker. Anyhow, if you roll and it doesn't get above 10, it'll automatically put the failure. If you roll the 1, it'll make that 2 failures. You roll over 10, it'll make it as a save, or a 20, it'll mark off 2 saves. And you can manually just go in there and fix that if you need to on the death saves, if you have some custom homebrew way of dealing with death saves. Alright, let's see the other things. Let's see, what else did see if I missed anything. Oh, up at the top next to the name, next where it says INSP, that's for inspiration. So you could check that box if you currently have inspiration. And there is an extension out for Fantasy Grounds, because there have been some DMs out there requesting an ability to change that to having multiple inspiration points, which you can do now. That's in the 5e rule set under the extensions sticky thread. You can pick that up. I just saw that yesterday.
That's interesting. I know you can also, people can give other people like bardic inspiration, so maybe that's to help, well, it would help track other stuff.
Yeah. Alright. Any other questions before we move over to the next tab?
Don't think so.
Alright, so let's go over to the skills tab. The tabs will be on the right hand side of your character sheet. Alright, so this has a list of all the different standard skills that there are, but it's easy to add skills if you want to customize your campaign world. In order to add more, all you got to do is hit the little edit button in the bottom right hand corner. It says edit list, and then when you do, up at the top on the skills bar, there's a little green plus. Just click on that and you could just type in the name of a new skill if you want to customize it. So then you just type in the name of the skill, and then on the stat you can choose what stat it's going to be based off of. And there you go. If you want it to also go in and put in a text as to what that one does, you can exit out of your edit list button by hitting the edit button in the bottom right hand corner. Once that's done, just hit on the dragon icon to the very right of the skill, and in there, if you click on where it says click to enter text, you can click that and you can put in some text for yourself if you want to know what that skill does. Alright, to the very left of each of these skills there is a star icon that have, I believe there's 3 different star effects. If it's gray, it means you're not proficient. Click it once and it will turn it yellow to show that you are proficient. Actually, I'm sorry, there's going to be 4. If you click it again, you'll see 2 stars to show that you're double proficient or expert, like for some of the rogues out there. They can become experts in a couple different skills. And if you click it yet again, you can get the half bonus that's used for such classes as the bards, who are jack of all trades. And then of course it shows the stat it uses. Under miscellaneous, you can use that button to indicate if a certain skill gives you a bonus for that particular skill, or let's say an item grants you a bonus, whatever. The box to the right of that under total, it's going to add up all your total bonuses including your stat. If you have a star next to it, it'll add up your proficiency bonus. So let's say we want to make acrobatics proficient, you'll see it'll add in your dex bonus and it'll give you your proficiency bonus. And this is where you can make your skill checks for that actual skill. So you just double click that box and it will roll the d20 and add in the modifiers for your stat check. Alright. And just to show you one more thing, if you scroll down the list to stealth, there's also an armor icon next to stealth. This is where you can show if you have a stealth penalty due to wearing heavier armors. Actually, oh wait a minute, you can't actually change that state. I think that state, it'll show up if you click on stealth disadvantage, I believe, in the combat calc on the main page. Let me double check.
It didn't seem to do anything.
Nope, it didn't. Alright.
Maybe that's just a little reminder that, you know, armor can affect this or can give you disadvantage or something. I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Always use it manually, right? Like with the quotation mark near your character, right? It puts up the advantage, disadvantage, +2, +5 toggles.
Yeah, you can use the modifier stack, which is in the bottom left-hand corner of Fantasy Grounds, to make modifiers on the fly. Yes. Alright, any other questions for the skills tab?
Nope.
Nope. And I'm sorry if the bacon eating thing was distracting. I was just checking out like how to do it while you're talking about it.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Makes it a fun experience learning. I do that sometimes myself. Alright, so let's go over to the abilities tab. So in here, this is where you can track your feats, class features or race features, your traits, proficiencies, and languages. In here, most of this is just informational, for informational purposes. Nothing in here is actually automated. If you wanted to add anything in here, there is an edit button in the bottom right hand corner. If you click on that, you'll see a little green plus icon show up next to each of the feeds or whatever to add one. And all you would do once the line appears is you would just type in whatever you want it to be. Now, just to bring up, I do know there is a unique extension for Fantasy Grounds. I can't remember off the top of my head who made it, but there is a languages extension. So if you have the languages extension, you can, I believe he also shows you how you can use the languages. But in the languages, you could type the languages you do have, and using that extension as a GM, you could type in like Sylvan, and if none of the players can actually read Sylvan, it'll just show up as a bunch of different text in the chat window. So it can add a different element of uniqueness to your campaign by doing that. Now, if that program, having that extension, it goes through and sees that you do in the Sylvan language, it'll actually translate it for you.
I like that. That could be a fun feature to use in a game.
Yeah, I've actually used it. I think I used it in my 4th edition campaign a couple times, and it did add some flair to the campaign, and some of the players were interested with that. They were like, "Oh, that's cool." I haven't used it in, I think, 2 or 3 years though. I did do a video on it on my YouTube channel, so if you want more information, you can either go to the Fantasy Grounds forums under the 5e, look at the extensions and pull it up that way, or you can just search through my YouTube video for the extensions video. So pretty much everything else in here, like I said, is just for informational purposes. Like in proficiencies, that's where you can indicate what tool proficiencies, armor, weapon proficiencies, and so forth there. If you got special traits for your race, you can indicate those under your traits. Class features, you could put those under there. Let's say, I don't know, you're playing some fighter and at a certain level you get a special maneuver, you can put that in there. Alright, any questions on that?
Don't think so.
Alright, so we'll move over to the inventory tab next. Alright, under here at the top, there's a section for you to indicate what equipment you're currently using. In order to get to actually add a line under equipment, if you're doing it manually, just click on the edit button in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, and you'll get that button to add stuff. And then from there, you can just add a line, and you could type in something, let's say a backpack or a dagger or something. The box to the left of the line indicates the quantity of that item that you have. The line to the right of the name indicates the location. So let's say you have a potion of healing and you have it in your backpack, and you have a DM that is cruel and likes to be cruel with you, and say a creature comes up and hits you in the back, and he wants to see what you have in your backpack to see if there's anything that got smashed, you can show what you have in there. And let's say you do have a backpack under your equipment and you put in a potion of healing, and for location you put backpack. By typing in the first words, it'll recognize whatever you have in your equipment, and it will indent it slightly to show that it's currently in that item. So yeah, if you want to try that real quick, we'll show you how it works. So we'll put backpack, and then yeah, there you go. Looks like it's going to prove a liar out of me right now.
I think it's working for me.
Okay. Okay, yeah, it did work. So I put it underneath your backpack so you know what's in there. Alright, so the box to the right of location is where you can put in the weight of the items. And then by doing so, when you type it in there, it'll automatically calculate it down below into the encumbrance area. So if you're tracking encumbrance, you can easily do that. And then to the right of the weight box, there's a little symbol up top. It looks like kind of like a weight itself, and there's little check marks next to them. So you could use that to indicate that you want to take off the weight value. So let's say you're wearing a backpack, and I don't know, let's say it's usually like 15 pounds, and for some reason it doesn't weigh anything anymore. Let's say you pick up, I don't know, some magical backpack that doesn't weigh anything and doesn't take on weight. You can uncheck that, and everything
That would.
go ahead.
Oops, sorry. I was going to say that will work for a bag of holding, where you can just stuff a whole bunch of stuff in there, but it doesn't affect your weight.
Yeah, exactly. And then when you uncheck that, you'll notice everything that you have noted as being in that item, it will take off the weight in the encumbrance area for you. Right. So that's
Yeah. It looks like that's not functioning properly right now.
okay.
Because if I uncheck backpack, it unchecks mess kit on mine, which is a total of 6 pounds, but it only takes off the 5 pounds for the backpack.
Alright, try it again. Oh, wow.
You know what? I wonder if it's assuming that you're, like, if I put a 1 pound mess kit in the backpack, that I'm changing the weight of the backpack to 6 pounds at that point. You know, to show the total weight of the backpack with its contents.
Let's check one more time. It might be sometimes if you don't click out of the box and somewhere else on the character sheet to enter in the field, it'll act like it's in a state where it doesn't take that value into effect.
So it looks like it does basically when something is in the backpack, only the backpack's weight value counts. So it's like it's assuming that you'll add that to the weight value of the backpack.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but then I did move my cursor like Keith had mentioned, and now it seems to be working.
Let's put a 2 for your dagger for the weight, or 12. Now try it.
Okay, it's working now.
Okay, yeah, it's just something to keep in mind whenever you're entering in. Just make sure you hit enter, or you move your cursor down into another field so it'll actually register whatever you put in there. Alright, and then of course with just about everything you'll notice there's like a red dragon, or sometimes you'll see a shield icon to the very right of some items that you've entered. That's where you can put in the ID name, notes, types, subtypes, and to go into that, so you could put like a non-ID name. Let's say you're a DM and you're creating a magical weapon. The players haven't identified it. You can put in like obsidian sword with blue pearl in the hilt for a non-ID name, which will show up as that until they identify it. Underneath there, under notes, you can put in, like, if you have a description of the item or a background of it, you can put in there. Down below there further, there is an area for type. Let's say you're creating the magical weapon. You could put in the type of weapon it is. Let's say it's a sword. Subtype, you could put in like short sword, whatever it's broken down into for like the different weapon classes. If you follow the same format in the player's handbook or the DMG for what type or subtype it is, it'll enter it incorrectly. I'm trying to think off the top of my head how the... Let me pull up a magical sword so I can walk you through how to put a magical sword in. I just say magical sword because like weapons, it'll let you put in like their hit dice that they do damage wise, bonuses and all that. Disruption. Alright, got one open. So for instance, I just grabbed a Mesa Disruption. So if you're making a magical mace, when it comes down to the type, it would be a weapon, and you'd put in parentheses mace, but you would leave the subtype alone. That's not a good example though. Sorry guys. Let me find a better example.
Where under inventory exactly are weapons specifically supposed to be entered?
In the equipment section, you can put them anywhere in there. There's no special section under there for weapons. Mainly, it's just a general overview of your equipment. But if you do put in a weapon, it's going to show up under equipment, and then you'll get a area where it will show up under the actions tab when we get to that, with your attack bonus and damage.
Okay.
Alright, let me find one more. If not, we'll just move on. Okay. I guess it doesn't look like anyone's using the subtype anymore. I know in 4th edition I used it a lot. Alright, let's say you put in a dagger for the item. Oh, dang it. So when we click on the red dragon for, let's say if you put in a dagger, that'll open up the window. So you could put in the non-ID number, the notes, subtype, just put in weapon, and then subtype you could leave blank. Cost, you can put in whatever it cost. So let's say you're using a magical dagger that's, I don't know, 350 gold, you could put 350 space GP. Then you can put in the weight, and then in that box underneath weight, it looks like that's where they're putting the effects of what the dagger would do. So if you need it off the fly, so you could put like this dagger does a D6 maybe instead of a D4. Put this dagger damage is a D6. You put in whatever modifiers, +3 strength or whatever. It's mainly just for informational purposes on that bottom box. Now, okay, but I'm noticing it's not showing up in the actions tab. Alright, well, let's move on past there for now. We might come back to that. It's been a while since I've manually put in a weapon. Alright, so we've pretty much gone over the equipment in the top section of this window. The next section is for treasure. And they've got 6 different boxes there, but you can also add in, there's a line underneath there where you can add in some stuff, like say you've got artwork or gems or whatnot. As a character, you can manually type it in there. But the boxes by default are generally left blank in case maybe your DM doesn't use electrum pieces, or maybe the only currency you have is steel. So in those boxes is where you'd put the value of whatever coin it is you collect. The lines next to it is where you can dictate what it is. So let's say you use the standard ones. You could put in PP for platinum, GP, SP, EP, and CP for copper. And then whenever the GM gives out stuff using the parcel, and he manually puts it over, if you have those fields put in for GP, PP, or whatever the standard coin is that you're playing with, it'll automatically get put into the character's equipment list if he uses that system. In some instances, items using that parcel system can also get pushed into character's inventory once they're tagged with whoever's getting it.
Okay.
And then underneath there we have the encumbrance. I don't use it a whole lot myself. Then too, I don't give a whole bunch of different stuff out. If I do find a greedy player that's hoarding stuff, I usually have some unfortunate event pop up to wipe out a bunch of his inventory.
Rust monsters.
Yes. But I believe there's also an extension if you wanted to modify how the encumbrance works. I'm trying to remember what system it's using by default. I'm almost thinking I questioned them once, and I think they're using the optional system for encumbrance here. But I don't have the details on that. So you can modify that using the extension if you wanted to. Alright, any questions on this page?
Nope.
Okay. Alright, so we'll move over to the Notes tab of your character sheet. And this one, for the most part, is, once again, it's informational. So this is where you put in your gender, age, height, weight, size, alignment, if you use alignment, faction. Now, faction is where, let's say you're playing Adventurers League, and they have I think there's 6 different factions that you can join with. Let's say you become a member of the Harpers, you could just type in there that you belong to that faction. DCI number, if you play with the organized play, that's where you can indicate your DCI player number if you're using Adventurers League and whatnot. DD, that's self-explanatory, I believe. Personal traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. Now this is where you can type in or you can randomly roll according to your background or whatnot. You can put in those details there. And all you got to do is just type it in there. Under appearance, if you wanted to type a little sentence about how your character appears or what kind of robes he's wearing or maybe some different shoes or a special hat you're using, you can put that there. Notes, I generally, if I'm having people make a pretty detailed character with a pretty good background story to it, I'll have them put it on that notes section. And even though there's just one line, if you hit enter, it'll add on lines as you go. So you can put quite a bit of info on this page. Any questions about this page?
Don't think so.
Seems straightforward.
Alright. So the next section, which will be a more important section, is the Actions tab. This one, as a player, you're going to get most of your usage off of this tab and your main tab. If you have any weapons put on your character, this is where they would show up. If you dragged and dropped onto the inventory, it would also put it over here on the Weapons tab. But you can add stuff to the weapon or spell list by using the Edit button, or Edit list in the bottom right hand corner. So that way you can get, let's see here, and then when you click on the Edit button, you'll get an emblem for Add Weapon, and there's an icon for Add Power. So if you wanted to add a weapon, just click on that button, and then you could type in the weapon. So right now I'm on Exeter's sheet, so you could type in, let's say you want to use a trident, just type it on the name list there. And on the very right hand side of that line, there's an icon currently of a sword. If you click that, it'll change it to some different icons to represent if it's a melee weapon or a ranged weapon or a thrown weapon. Those 3 instances of type of weapons. And then the next box over, that'll be your attack roll box, and the other one next to that that's currently blank will be the damage roll button. How you can manually change the effects of the weapon. There is a magnifying glass to the right of the item that you're working on. So let me type in some stuff on this one. So we'll make this trident. We opened up the magnifying glass, and you'll see it'll retain the name of the item that you put in, For properties, this is where you could put in certain keywords for the weapon. Let's say you have a flame tongue that does flame damage or fire damage, you'd put in fire. Or if it was necrotic, you'd put in the keyword necrotic, and so forth. Under attack, there's the base stat. That'll use the base attack stat for that weapon, if it's melee, range, or so forth. But let's say you've got like a finesse weapon that can either be strength or dex. I believe that's how it works. You could change that accordingly to whatever stat that you want it to work off of. The next box there is for you to put in whatever bonus you get. Let's say it's a trident +1, you could put in +1 there. And then there's a star next to that to show if you're proficient, which should be yellow by default. So if you're not proficient, all you got to do is just click on that to show that you're not proficient, and it will reduce the proficiency bonus off of it. Moving on to damage, there's a little edit button to the right for damage, allowing you to add stuff there. Click that and then hit the green plus sign. It'll add a line where you could add in the damage dice. And to add the damage dice, all you got to do is drag the dice from the bottom of your Fantasy Grounds screen and drop it into that box, and it will automatically change to that one. So let's say the trident I'm working on, let's say we'll make it a D6, just drag and drop, and then there's a stat next to it, which is going to start off at base, but once again you could change the stat bonus for the item by just clicking it until you find what you want it. It'll be either base or one of your ability scores, or level, or proficiency bonus, or nothing. And to the right of there, you can add in a bonus, like if it's magical, you can put in a bonus for damage. And then there's a line to the right of there for type. That's where you can put in if it's piercing, bludgeoning, slashing, and so forth. Any questions on that particular window?
No, I don't think so.
Are the properties also keyworded?
I believe they are.
Like the net's got a special property as well, if I'm not mistaken, things like that.
Sorry, what was the question?
Like the net has a special property involving tripping, right? So does it have those properties as well in the keywords?
Yeah, so that would be an excellent example of putting in different properties for a weapon and whatnot. Although I don't know if that's keyworded, but you could manually put that in there so you could check it out if something has something special. Right. So the next section will be about, they have it as powers, but that's going to mean pretty much you can customize spells. Let's say fighters have a special maneuver. You can put all that in under this bottom section under spells and whatnot. So to add anything under the spell area or power section, you go down and hit the edit button and then click add power, and a button will pop up saying powers. Let's say you want to put in the spell Magic Missile. So you type in under name, type in Magic Missile. The next box is to show the class or ability group that you get it from. So we'll just put wizard. Right, and then after you edit or exit out of the edit mode, you can get to the red dragon, and here is where you can fill out some information about that particular spell, like the summary of everything the spell does. Usually if I'm manually putting this in, I'll just copy, let's say, out the basic PDF for D&D, just copy everything for the spell, put it in there, and then from there it makes it easier to type in everything else. Under level, put in obviously the level of the spell, say level 1. The next section is the School of Magic, so you can type in, if it's evocation or whatnot, you can put that in there. The next box, casting time, once again that's kind of self-explanatory. Range, components, duration, and then the box underneath duration, I think that's where you can put pretty much anything else that you need to, like let's say it's an area of effect spell, you can note that under there and so forth. The last box on there is the source, where you can identify the source of the spell. Let's say you're using some third-party spell and your DM's like, where the hell did you get that spell? You could show here under source, so then he can look it up if he wants to. Let's say he got it from Chepe's blog, he can name the source there, whichever blog Chepe had posted it on, he can put it there. So let me copy and put, actually, John, I think you said you were having a problem putting a particular spell in. Did you want me to walk you through putting that one in? That way we could put in the damage and all that stuff.
Yeah, like I don't remember in particular what it was, but in this case I just grabbed a cantrip and started on that. So I have the basics in and the basic data in, but I haven't tried to mess with how to set up the automated portion, where you cast the spell and that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. So let me modify this other character sheet. I'm going to put the same spell, Firebolt cantrip, and we'll walk both of you through that step. So let me just set this one up real quick. Alright, so I have it pretty much similar. Alright, so once you have typed in, it's a firebolt, it's a wizard spell, and then opening up the dragon, it's got the summary there that shows, well, for in this instance, I guess it's a ranger spell attack that you put in, doing 1d10 fire damage, can light other items on fire. For level, since it's a cantrip, we'll put 0 to show that it's a cantrip spell. School, it's evocation.
Right.
Casting time, 1 action, range 60 feet. Components V and S, duration instantaneous. Alright. So we need to put in there something for it to actually for the player to click on to actually roll the 1d10 fire damage. So how you would do that, first off, actually let me back up. If you want Fantasy Grounds to go through and pick up any keywords that you have written in your spell, what you're going to do is you're going to right click on the spell, and you'll get a radial option window where you can rest, close window, minimize, add action, reparse spell actions, create item, or delete item. So once you type in something into a spell, if you want it to search for keywords, you're going to choose the option reparse spell actions. And when you click on that, it's going to search through the summary and everything you put in there, and it's going to look for those keywords. If it finds it, it's going to automatically add in if it does damage, if it heals, and whatnot. Now that's if you set up the keywords correctly. So if we do
No,
that,
well, once you know the keywords, that can be real handy.
yeah, definitely. And how you know something is a keyword, like when you're typing into Fantasy Grounds, a little hand will come up over the text, and that will indicate you have a keyword in there. Like, yeah, it's not picking up anything under your summary. Put it down here. Yeah, it's not picking up anything. But as you go, you'll and you add in stuff manually, you'll start picking out what is a keyword until you get that document. And then if you get that document, you can just look and find out, okay, this is how to put it in. Alright, so it didn't pick up anything, which is okay. So what we'll do is we'll right click on the spell again, and we need to add an action. So you'll hit add action, and you'll get another radial option where you can add casting, damage, heal, or an effect. So in this case we want to add damage, so we'll click on the add damage button, and you'll get a button come up with a box. Now there's going to be a magnifying glass at the very right of that box. By clicking on that, you can go in and edit, and you can add in the damage dice it does. So we'll hit the edit list, hit the green plus, and then for this case it's going to do a D10 damage, so drag a D10 over, drop it in the box for dice. The stat box next to it, let's say it does extra damage or extra healing due to some ability, you can change that accordingly to the stat bonus you're going to give it. And then of course there's the bonus. Let's say if it was magic missile, you could put in 1d4 plus 1 bonus. And if it uses multiple dice, like let's say 3d10, all you got to do is just right click on the dice on Fantasy Grounds, and you can choose different options of how many dice you want to pick up and drag and put in the box. So if it does 3d10, you could right click on the d10, choose 3, and then drag 3d10 and drop in the dice box to change it to 3d10 if you wanted. The type, that's where you would put in a keyword. Let's say on the fire bolt it's going to do fire damage, so you'd put in fire. Okay, so we have the damage in there, but we also need to put in the attack roll. So you would once again go up to the spell, right click on it, and choose add action, and then add cast. And that's where you can put in your stuff for your attack modifiers, or if there's a saving throw, you can put that in there by using the magnifying glass next to it. So by hitting the magnifying glass, let's say the firebolt, we'll put in there that it's a ranged spell attack. So you click type until it says ranged, or if you want to do melee, you could change it to melee. Base, group attack plus, you could change that to whatever. Let's say intelligence. You could change it to ability and then click on the individual stat, and it puts a proficiency bonus, and then there's a place for an actual bonus on there. And then of course if there's a save associated, you could change that. So you could put the for the save type, you change it to base. You can make it a strength, DC, dex, whatever. Let's say charisma savings throw, and then you could change the base from to like 8 plus ability plus whatever stat you're using. You can do it a fixed. Let's say it's maybe a 14. You could just type in 14 under the bonus if you want it to be a fixed charisma bonus of say DC 14. Underneath there's another box for on save for damage. So you could say if they make their save, they only inflict half on success, or you could just disable that. That's all they have for the option on that. So
that looks like it.
Okay. And of course there's two other actions. There's heal, like if you want to set up Cure Light Wounds or Healing Word, it works almost the same way. And then there's another one called Effect, where you can add effects like it causes paralysis or sleep or something to that effect. And the effects use a lot of keywords as well that you can get off that handy document.
Cool.
Any questions so far?
No, that covered the basics.
If you added something, like I was just goofing around and I added an effect to the firebolt, do you know how you take that back off?
If you right click on that particular line of the spell, there's an option to delete that item, and that should take only that effect off. Ooh.
Yeah, that deleted the whole thing. I was wondering about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not delete item. There's actually a button that says remove action. That's how you delete just one line under the spell. Sorry about that, John.
No, that's all right. That we're just working through it here, so that I learned it.
Yep. And just to let you all know, I got a message come up on my screen saying it's going to reboot in 15 minutes. There's no option for me to postpone it, so I'll just keep going as long as I can until it boots me. If I get knocked off, as soon as it comes back up, I'll bring up the server and I'll be back.
I learned pretty much everything I need to, I think, other than like what it looks like when you actually bring up the grid and how we put stuff on it and everything like that.
Yeah, so that's the next topic I was wanting to go over. I'll go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, what is the dice tower in the bottom right-hand corner?
The dice tower is, let's say you want to have the players make a secret roll. Let's say you're having them do stealth checks, or let's say they're searching for a secret door. I don't know if you've ever run into the players that are like, oh crap, I only rolled a 3. Well, I'm going to search again, or some effect where they'll start modifying their reactions based on what they rolled. By using the dice tower, they would drag and drop their skill roll into the dice tower instead of double clicking. So let's say if we go to the skills tab, go down to the stealth skill, you would drag the box to the very right of stealth, and you would drop onto that dice tower to make the roll. So that's only going to show the result to the DM, not the player. So you as the DM can describe if there was a success or fail, or maybe they're sneaking about, but they didn't see that a bugbear that's also hiding actually noticed them. So then they would continue acting normally, like, oh yeah, I'm being Mr. Sneaky, sneaking around here, and yet the bugbear actually saw him, is actually going to sneak up and grab him.
Okay, yeah. Just keeps them from metagaming it, kind of.
Exactly. Alright, I know, Chepe, you weren't here when we went over how to differentiate, like, spells known versus how you indicate how many spell slots and stuff you have for your spell classes. Did you want me to go over that with you real quick?
I knew how to do spell slots, but I'm not sure how to differentiate the prepared and non-prepared, known and prepared.
Alright, so if we go back to the Actions tab on your character sheet, there's a button on the bottom. Well, there's actually a couple more buttons. There's a Mode button and a Display button. So on the Mode, you can change it from Combat to Standard to Preparation. So if you go to, let's say, Preparation, you can note how many spell slots for each level you have. And whenever you have a spell set up correctly, oh yeah, never mind. There's a box next to Firebolt on the very left where you could click on that, and you can change to however many times you're going to prepare it or whatnot. Actually, this looks a little different. Let me throw a different spell on there real quick so you can kind of get an idea of it. Just going to randomly throw some in there. Alright, so now that I've added some spells on Exeter, hopefully that's yours, Chepe. Is that your character that you made?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Alright, so like next to Chromatic Orb, you'll see a little dot. You can actually check that to show that you have prepared those particular spells. So that's how you can differentiate between the ones you have prepared and not.
Cool.
Let's see here. Also, whenever you're in combat, and if you've put everything onto a spell and you're not sure what it does, like let's say Chromatic Orb, if you double click where it says the star, or actually maybe it's the spell. Okay, never mind. Like Firebolt. If you double click on the name where it says Firebolt, whatever you put in the description or the summary, it will actually spit it out into the chat window, so you're not having to go looking through your book for what it does. Let me check yours real quick, John. I see that yours isn't doing it. Okay, it's showing I got 5 minutes left before the restart. Actually, if you type in the description in the bottom box underneath duration, John, it'll actually show up in the chat window. You know how I told you to put everything in the summary up top? If you actually copy and paste that down below, in that box down below, it'll show up for you. Not sure why Chromatic Orb didn't come up though. I'll have to play with that some more.
It's weird. Is there any chance of being able to see the grid before you have to reboot?
Let me try to do that here. Let me bring up a map. Alright, so I'm loading one up. So I'm sharing the map out. It might take a minute or so before you see it.
Got it.
All right. So is the map up for both of you?
Yes.
All right. So the map's here. On your character sheet, all the DM has to do is just drag the portrait or the token that you have next to your inspiration box and drop it onto the map here that I've got broken down into some grids. Now there's a couple options as the GM. You could lock the tokens down like it is now. So if you went to go drag your token, you'd see a line that would also show the distance. This is excellent for a DM to show, see how players move, and let's say there's a trap somewhere, then you can know that they went over the trap. And then once they do move, the DM will see where the line how they moved, and then they can accept the move, and it will move the cursor along how they moved. Now, another thing is if you as a player were to target a creature, let's say you want to target the other player that's on the map, by doing so, usually a ring will circle around them. Let me put you guys on the combat tracker first. Okay, so like Ekmund, it would be his turn, and it would show you in the chat. And if you were to target, you know what? Let me pop these tokens off real quick, because the targeting ain't going to work because I dragged it from your character sheet, not the combat tracker. Okay, so now you'll see a white circle around the current player whose turn it is. If he targets Exeter, you should see a ring appear around Exeter based on the color of the dice that he's picked out. Can you do that, John?
Well, I have him targeted. It says targeted in the tracker.
It might be because he's friendly. Let me make him hostile. What color is your dice, John? Is it green?
Black.
Black. That's weird. No, it's not showing up right.
My dice